Good day, everybody. Today's going to be a studio upgrade day. For the last 5 or 6 years, I've been slowly building out a synthesizer rig, mostly as a hobby, but I'm hoping to get a little bit more into music production. I picked up a Synthstrom Deluge to act as the main brain for the entire thing, and a Scarlett 18i8 to allow all of the instruments that I eventually would pick up to be plugged in stereo and able to immediately play everything all at once. And this has been working great for me for the last couple of years. But I've run into a bit of a creative challenge. I'm using my iPad as the main way to interface with the actual equipment, the interface, interface with the interface. Anyways, I'm using the iPad with AUM to actually interface and add things like compression, EQ to each of the instruments on a per track level if I want. But then when I wanted to add some great delay or reverb effects, I found that the processor couldn't quite keep up with the amount that I was throwing at it. So I picked up an Empress Zoia to have as a dedicated effects box, and it's amazing. I absolutely love it. But again, the problem is I'd have to be sitting around plugging cables in, unconnecting them, and it's just a little messy. I don't quite like that. So I started thinking about, well, what kind of hardware solutions can I have? And immediately I thought, well, a patch bay is the obvious solution. You know, you can plug it in and have tinier cables out in the front, easily accessible. But because I run everything through the iPad on AUM, I have per track setups. Because I like to have proper EQ on each instrument, and it didn't quite give the level of control. And it's clunky. If I decided to do a live stream, I have to sit there, plug in cables and making sure I don't make mistakes. That just didn't work for me. So I looked for a hardware solution, and that has finally arrived today. For context, I ordered this, probably back in January, and it's May now. It got stuck on a ship because of, well, political reasons. This is a Behringer, what is it? I always forget the codes. UMC1820. Basically, it's an audio interface that's more or less equivalent to my Scarlett. So it's got 2 on the front, 6 on the back, but importantly, it has 2 main features that makes it very different. It has many outputs. And so that will mean it can allow me to route virtual loops through AUM. So I could send, for example, my Rev 2 input to, let's say, 9 or 10 output, which might go to the Zoia, which might go to the Quad Cortex, or even the input on the Synthstrom Deluge. Now, I haven't tested this yet, so this is part of the journey on this video. But I think from what I've read, the delay should be acceptable, like maybe 4 or 5 milliseconds or something like that. And if I'm doing delay effects or reverb or these kinds of like time stretching type, it shouldn't really impact things that much. However, this box doesn't have enough inputs. So that's where this guy comes in. This is the Behringer ADA8200, and it adds 8 additional inputs. Now they use the exact same preamps, so it should be more or less equivalent sound. On the back, it has ADAT, so I can connect it with a cable so that when the iPad is connected to the UMC1820, it will just see all of the inputs together. And that's going to be extremely valuable because basically together, these 2 things will act as one very expanded unit. And so today I'm going to go through all my cables and get this set up, do some testing, and share the results with all of you. All of my gear is nicely plugged in. It's fairly neat. I've got it all tucked away in the corner because all the cables are hidden behind. Yeah, just hiding it worked. So all the instruments are plugged in, as I mentioned earlier, to the Scarlett here on the front and back. And so I'm going to place the new gear here. So I have to get all the cables, the inputs and outputs through that little hole, then route a couple outputs back to the Scarlett, which I'm going to use to control the monitors because it's easier that way. right, moment of truth. Let's see if anything works here. Okay. Oh, it would help if I actually turn these on. Okay, blinky lights, that's good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way through 18. Perfect. All right. Now let's just do some real quick tests. So 1, 2, I think should be the Deluge. Okay. I am seeing there that's working. So I forgot that 1, 2 on here is not actually 1 and 2 because this is 1, 2. This will be, I don't know, I think 9, no, it'll be 11, 12, I think. So now I'm seeing it. Now if I turn the main, I think to max. Okay, so I've been fighting with this for the last hour. No matter what I could do, I could not get audio to come out of the main left and rights. What I've learned though, thanks to Reddit, is that on an iPad, the UMC1820, you need to turn the volume up. Ridiculous. On the Scarlett, obviously would have recognized it. It has a volume knob. You don't need to fiddle with the buttons. But even if you had it on USB 1.2, it wasn't sending anything because you needed the volume all the way up. So pro tip there if you're going to use an iPad with it. But the good news is I can now get sound from the Deluge through the expander into the UMC1820, out to the Scarlett, and then to the monitor. So the full loop is working. I'm going to go through each of the other instruments, make sure they're working, check the left and right for the ones where it matters, and then I'm going to circle back and start playing with the loop backs just to see if they work. So right now I've got the Deluge to the main outs. I'm going to try sending it to the Empress Zoia right now. I believe was the output 7.8 is the input. And then I also put it on 7.8, so that's easy to remember what its output is from. So 7.8. The Deluge is now sending its signal into the expander, which then is synced with the UMC1820, which then is being virtually routed to 7.8, going to the input on the Zoia, and then the output of the Zoia is going to 7.8, and that whole chain is being sent to the main outputs. So let's see if it works. It does. Fantastic. Okay, now I'm going to test the other ones. I'm not going to bother recording it, but I'm going to do the same idea with the quad Cortex as well as the Deluge's input. Just finished testing and all of the connections are working. I've got the panning set correctly. The latency of feeding it through the AUM app into the inputs and the outputs is almost imperceptible, so it sounds like it's going to be a good solution. So for the rest of today, I'm just going to clean up these cables, and tomorrow I'll probably do some gain staging and then start playing with it and let you know how it feels. Now that everything is set up, I've been playing around with a lo-fi track that I've been experimenting with, and I want to do a little bit of improvisation with the guitar and the Osmose here. Hopefully I don't forget the notes on the scales. It's something I'm still working on, but I hope you'll enjoy this little demonstration, and then after I'll show you how it's all wired up. missed my cue. All right, that's good enough for a little bit of a demo. Let's get over there and let me show you how this is all working. So as you can see, each of the instruments is coming from the hardware inputs from the UMC1820 and ADA8200. Basically 1 through 10 is coming from the UMC1820 and 11 through 18 is coming from the ADA8200. So as you can see, it just shows up all as one, which is exactly what I wanted. And so I've got the Deluge, my Osmose Rev 2, XDM, the Quad Cortex. Now the Quad Cortex has 2 different inputs to the interface, which is the outs, the main 3-4 outs, which you could use for, front of house or speakers or whatever you want. And the 1-2, which is the send, which is where you can build virtual effects loops at any point within your patch. The Zoia obviously has an out. I'm using the 1-2 on the front of the interface as my M8 input. This is a piano tech for piano sounds. I like keeping this on every single track I make because it's just helpful to have piano just as a reference tool or for actually including in the tracks. Now these are the bread and butter of this entire setup. These 3 buses, C for some reason, AUM doesn't give you the full letter range for the buses. I don't know why. It would be nice to have put a Q there, but Cortex is the keyword here for the Quad Cortex. That's sending out to the 5-6, which goes to the returns 1-2 on it. E for Empress Zoia, and D for the Deluge. So with these buses, let's go back. Let's go with the piano first. It's very clear. So the piano has 2 sends. One, E to go to the Empress Zoia, which is adding a whole lot of reverb. And D for Deluge, which is adding some granular synthesis. Doesn't really come through when I'm playing, but it proves the concept. And of course I can send them together. Okay, getting distracted. Like I was saying earlier when I was improvising, you can do that for all the instruments. So my Osmose now goes into the Zoia as well for a whole lot of reverb. And it also can get some granular synth. In both of these, I'm on the Zoia and the Deluge, I'm not mixing any of the original signal. If I were to do that, I might have some phase canceling issues. So I'm kind of just relying on this whole chain as a bit of the mix. If I was actually finishing the song, I might reduce some of what goes out. But I'm going to point out that I can actually cut everything but the effects. Sounds really weird. But if I were to, I don't know, let's add a gain down here to cut some of the gain. Could make it maybe, sure, let's see what that sounds like. I took a bit of a flyer by buying this gear without really knowing it was going to work the way I wanted. I had watched some reviews of these products and people were using them successfully together. It's kind of like the perfect pairing. but they were basically using it to expand the amount of interfaces they have and sending them out to a whole bunch of different monitors, in-ears, floor mounts, that kind of stuff. I hadn't found anybody using it as this virtual loop concept. And I maybe read a couple people theorizing that it would probably work, but I don't think anyone had actually tried it. So I'm here to report unscientifically that it works just fine. Basically, I hit a note and I hear it pretty quickly. As far as I can tell, there's not much of a delay. At least it doesn't impact my ability to stay on beat. And I'm excited to be able to start making some music with much better flexibility in terms of adding the kind of ambience that I really wanted in the tracks. So thanks for coming with me on this little journey this week, and I hope I'll see you next time. Take care.